Neuroscience is a broad term, study of brain and behavior, which encompasses studying cells that make up the brain, how they behave under a microscope or in a very an experimental laboratory condition, to studying a whole organism, maybe an experimental animal or a human being. So neuroscience encompasses both cellular molecular biology as well as what's called systems neuroscience, meaning when all these cells are put together, you get the brain. The brain behaves in a way that is difficult to predict by looking at one cell. How a cell behaves and how brain that is made up of trillions of these cells behaves is a different thing. So you look at the whole organism. Again, it could be experimental animal, could be a person, and how they behave. So neuroscience encompasses this entire spectrum of studying cells to studying individuals. Observation is the basis of progress. So we observe, and then our experience comes into our interpretation of what we see. So a trained observer, keen observer, or a casual observer, the same phenomenon would have a different, they'll be communicated differently by these three categories of people. A casual observer will see the same thing and would have some observations that are very important. A keen observer may observe more, he may observe some more details, but a trained observer, in the case of Dr. Sachs, a neurologist, observing patients with neurological problems, he could go beyond these two other categories. And then in Dr. Sachs's case, he wrote about them and made that accessible to people who don't otherwise would have had an interest in this. We can't experiment with everything, so we can create a phenomenon and change it by experimentation. But vast majority of growth of knowledge is by observation. And passing on that information to the future generations. Then being able to communicate that to non-experts, that is an outstanding, rare quality. And now, because of the dramatic advances in imaging technology, what I mean is MRI imaging, we can do a lot of studies of people in action as they're performing a task, how the brain works. It'll be interesting today if he would have made use of some of the imaging technologies with his patients and gotten a different type of insight.